Back in here in the Labrat Guitars lab on the Toltec Pickups channel, and today we are giving a quick demo and instruction on how to string up this style of Bigsby tremolo unit. This is the F-stamped, Fender stamped Bigsby unit. I can't remember what the model number is. There's a B in it somewhere, right? The like horseshoe flat top style, not for the arch top. There are different versions for different kind of guitars. This is a modified Telecaster, which I fitted this unit quite a few years ago for this loyal customer. One thing to take into account and to note if you are going to go down the route of modifying your Telecaster with this style tremolo on it and the ashtray bridge plate, so called because it has the upper lip on the back and sides, hence looking like an ashtray, I guess, or somebody could have used it as an ashtray, whatever. That's the style. Now if you're going to fit this with an ashtray bridge, you're going to have to cut away and make some notches here for the strings to pass under the bar and over onto the saddles, because otherwise the string is going to hit the back of this ashtray part of the plate and it's not going to string. You can purchase aftermarket, and I think even Bigsby do a unit like that. It might couple together as a package with compatible made ashtray bridge style, or leaving enough obviously for the intonation screw to be still fixed. You can mod these though. You get yourself a file and a grinder or whatever you need to do, a tool to do a nice job. This is what I did when I modified this, is made these little U channels in here for the strings to pass through. That being said, the way we string the tricky Bigsby style trem, they are fiddly, but once you've done a few you start to get into a little pattern of it. The way that these work is that the ball end of the string hooks onto a little pin in this part here, and then the wrap comes over the top of this part of the bar, down and then under this roller. So over, under. The tricky part is they have a tendency when you are tuning and threading at the top end of the headstock with the tuning pegs that these can pop off. They can come off, which can be frustrating. Also, if you don't get a nice curve and kink on this part of the string, it can cause you issues. So what I like to do, we're going to do the D. I've already strung these two to start with. We're going to do the D, and I just like to put a pre-bend, let's say, in that string at this end, being careful because that's where the string is wrapped. There's a wrap there which holds it onto the ball end, the loop holding onto the ball end. On the plain ones particularly, they can create a weak point, and sometimes if you've got a less than adequate string, they can even unravel, I've had in some cases. So we're creating a little loop there, and again, for those in the cheap seats, it goes over the top of the back piece and then under this, not over, under. This is for all Bigsbys. So what I like to do is I'll make that kink there, and I'll thread this underneath there into position where I want it to be, and then we're going to go over the top of this piece and then hook that ball end onto that peg, and I'm keeping some tension on there, and then I'm going to thread the string through and just pull tight. Now I've got tension on there, and because we've made that little pre-kink in there, or we've folded it over, we're getting less resistance from it wanting to ping off these posts. And keep that nice and tight now, all the way, and then we're going to our peg head end. We're going to just keep that tension on it, baby. We're going to do our usual measuring and marking off at the tuner pegs of how much length of string we want on there. So I usually like to measure 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches, which is 2 peg heads past the one we're stringing on. So we're going to be winding onto the D peg, and so I'll take the length of the string over to like the B, and then keeping tension all the time, I'll just snip there. These are the vintage style safety posts, which I'll show in another video of how to string those, and I'm doing that method which will get shown at some point. That's the method I've got at this end. Keeping that tension on here all the time so that stays on. And if you're doing it correctly, if you let go of this now, that's going to ping off. So keep that tension. Now this has gone for me a piece of cake because I'm so used to doing this now. When I was first learning to do this, it would cause me no end of headaches. And there we have it. Sometimes you'll find that it may want to, the ball end pause of the string may want to force down the peg, or may not be seated in there properly. That's not the case here now, but if that is, just, you know, push that back up there. We're not going to tune that just yet. We will wait till we've got all the strings on and then do the tuning. So once more, let's do the B string. These can be a little bit more robotic because this wrap is a little, it's smaller, it's got sharp bits on it there which can dig into your fingers. So we're creating a little bit of a, I kind of roll it over my finger really, a pre-bend in there, like that. That's the bit that's going to go onto the pin, and a pre-bend in there, and then I'll thread it. This probably could be a little bit of a test of my patience with it being the plain strings. I tend to move about a lot. I'll thread it under this bar here from this side. If you start on this side here first and try and go and thread under, you'll come across all sorts of problems like this wanting to pop off, which we know from experience. So this one is going to be a little trickier with it being the plain string. Onto the peg that's supposed to go onto the little pin, and I want to move about, and I'll just put a bit of tension there with my finger holding that to the bar, and I'll thread, pull through. This looks like it's going to come down a little bit. That's not so bad actually. And I'm keeping tension now at this with my left hand going up towards the tuning pegs. I'm just keeping tension on that. I've got to my part that I want to wrap on the peg. 1 second, I'll do that again. Not enough there. There we go. Thread and string up. We lost a little bit of tension there, but it stayed on. That's a fluke. That is a fluke. And now I'm stringing how I would usually with the vintage style split post Telecaster tuners. They were also on the Stratocasters as well in the early days. Now, a thing you can come across sometimes, I've just let tension go a little bit there, is that these might be a little skew with the string, so I like to just push across and make sure that that's kind of lined up the best it can be. Now, the spacings of each peg here where the ball end goes on are a little wider than your saddle slots generally, even on the tunematic style or roller style bridges. They're not married up, let's say, and so you'll get a little bit of inconsistency. They won't go directly straight to when they sit on the saddle, but I like to just move. If it's off to the side, you can't probably see that, but if I'm looking directly above, the string is running a little bit off the centre of where the ball end or the peg is, and so I'll just pull it across, and you can, maybe you can't see, but it's kind of going off a little like this till it gets to the groove in the saddle. That's what we've got to work with. It is what it is because of the dimensions there, or if that's right, or the spacings. They're not exactly accurate, and you'll find that with the, not just the Telecaster ones, but with the roller bridges tunematic style. Hell, let's just do one more. The thick bass E string. Again, you can do this. Sometimes people would get some pliers on there to bend it over. Pause. I can just do it. A little bit of finger pressure. Just being mindful. I'm going to thread underneath the bar rather than like doing this shit. Rather than going this way first, hooking on, and then trying to back your string back and then thread under there like that. This is a technique that I found works much easier to start with, is go under with this end first, and that way we're already engaged now, aren't we? That all that string now can just go straight to peg head, and we've only got this to deal with rather than trying to thread the rest of the string under here while keeping tension on that. It's going to cause you to make some curses, as my dad used to say, and he probably still does. You make a saint swear. It's on the peg. I've got some pressure there holding it on so it's not going to slip, and now I'm just going to gently pull through, and now I've got full tension on that. Full tension, baby. All the way down to our tuning peg. That's where we want to be. Snip, keeping that tension on it all the time, because if we let go, it can want to ping off. Lord knows how many times I've said that on this video now so far, but the more we keep revisiting those phrases, we just solidify it in us heads. Again, it's splayed a little bit out. It doesn't really go exactly how you want it to, but we've discussed that. It's not going to cause any issues. It's all sat under this nice roller here. We've got some nice rattle there. You can hear that's the E tuning peg that's rattling from the vibration, because there's no string on it. And that's how it works. That's how you do it, really. These type of vibrato, tremolo and vibrato. It's not really a trem, is it? It's just for light. And you can go crazy on there, but its initial design was just for light and a bit of tremolo vibrato, they're kind of two different things. But anyway, I digress. That is how we are going to string up a Bigsby style. We've got the plain E string here, the treble E, gauge 10 it is. That's how we're stringing up the Bigsby style vibrato. Kinking it under there, over the top there, and then hooking that on the peg. This one is particularly tricky. It's the ones that are close to the edge of the chassis of the unit can be tricky to get your fingers in the tight space. Pause, tension on. We've started, so we'll finish. We may as well. I'm going to get all that on there, to be fair. Let's get all that on there. Tight, tension on, winding up, keeping tension at the peg head and at the bridge end. Good Lord, shaking all over. That's how we do it. Easy, innit?